Welcome to Generations, a show which helps people 50 and better lead happy, healthy, and productive lives. Here's today's moderator, Nadia Jordana.
Hello and welcome to Generations. I'm Nadia Jordana, and we have an interesting show today that will help you get to know us a little bit better and have a little fun along the way. We have, and I will introduce the co-host in just a moment. We have a group of questions here in the fishbowl that we've come up with. Several of us came up with different questions that we're going to be challenging our co-hosts with adding feedback from these questions wherever they are most inclined. My first co-host is Carl Brookins.
Thank you.
Welcome, Carl. Good to have you with us today.
I'm pleased to be here.
And Dave Lepaco.
Nice to be here. I'm thinking this might make an excellent party game.
I think it would. We'd have to change the questions out though and make them a little spicier. Ellie Freed.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here too,
Yes.
and I'm excited to see how comfortable I will be with these questions.
Oh, there's nothing too scary in there. And Gloria Van Demeltraat.
Thank you, Nadia. I'm delighted to be here. This is the kind of thing I really love.
I do too. I do too. Well, let's get started. I'm going to pull something, and I do know what all the questions are. I just don't know where they are.
Do we need a drum roll or anything?
Yeah, we need
Wouldn't
a
that
drum
be
roll.
fun to
I,
have
I thought we were going to get a statement of deniability or something.
We'll do that later. Okay. Relate a story about a mouse in the house. A mouse or
in a
vermin,
house.
or I remember one, I'll start. I remember one in my family, and I was about 10. We lived in an old farmhouse. We had bats. That's the same as a mouse that flies.
Yeah.
We had bats. Well, I shouldn't say we had bats. One summer night we had bat. And I started screaming, and it took forever for my mom to come up and help with this bat that was flying around my room and dive bombing, and I was under the covers. And when I finally heard help arrive, I peeked out from under the covers, and now this is why it took my mother so long to get upstairs. She was wearing hip boots, a winter coat, a whole
Wonderful.
Ben's fur hat, goggles, and a broom.
Yeah.
The bat didn't have a chance.
The bat didn't have a chance. Oh.
Go ahead.
We had at one point we had 3 cats and a dog, and the cat who lived for 22 years was Max, and Max was a hunter. I mean, he would bring little baby bunnies to the door, I'm afraid. But one time I was down in the laundry room in the basement, and out of the corner of my eye, underneath the stairway, I caught something moving, and I thought it was a mouse. So I got Max, and I just brought him down there. I said, Max, over there. And there was a bunch of cluttering and little noise, and about 2 minutes later, he comes out with this mouse in his mouth. We had to take care of it, and I guess it was a fairly natural way to do it. But thank you, Max, for
Taking care of that.
I've
Well,
I've had in the past year 2 baby mice at different times in my washing machine. I opened the washer to do laundry, and there's a baby mouse in there.
Oh, my word.
So I got a hold of it and took it outside and let it go. We never caught it. We put some traps around and never caught a mother or anybody. And a couple months later, another baby mouse in there in the little laundry cup that I measured the soap in. And he couldn't get out of there. He was so little.
Oh, funny.
So I could take him out in the cup.
was that a gas-fired? Oh, it was the washing machine.
Washing machine,
not
yeah.
The
Yeah.
dryer. Yeah.
No,
'Cause sometimes they come in. the
yeah,
vent.
I just could not figure that out.
Did Carl have a story too?
I have a bat story.
Oh.
I used to act in community theater, and we were doing a show in the round on the St. Paul campus of the University of Minnesota, and the building's gone now. And we were rehearsing, and I don't remember the play, but I was talking to the woman, and we were standing in one of the entrances, and I was standing here, she was standing there, and I'm supposed to say something. I say my lines. I turn away, and then I turn back to tell her something else, and she wasn't there. And I stopped, we were rehearsing, and I looked around, she was flat on the floor because a bat had come in behind me, and she was deathly afraid of it, and the bat went right between us, and she just collapsed on the floor. But it was so odd because here she is, I'm talking to her, I turn away, I say a line, I turn back, and she's gone.
Yeah, they are creepy.
When I was a teenager, I lived in an old people's home. And it's an interesting story. My father was the manager of the Oddfellows home in Northfield. And it's now called Three Links. It's still there, and it's called the Three Links. Well, at that time, there was an old building that was no longer used for residents, but many of the help lived up on the second floor. And they had an apartment on the first floor where my parents and my brother and I lived. And it was an experience beyond belief. I could go on for hours about it, but we used to get bats in that building. And the hallways outside of our apartment, the hallways were like 3 stories high. And we'd be running back and forth with brooms, sweeping in the bats would dive at it, and my brother and I and a couple other kids would be swinging brooms and trying to get these bats. We never did get any, but we had a good time. We hit ourselves with the brooms a few times too.
Did everybody that has a story?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Time for another one.
No mice, just bats.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
Mice and bats.
This is a free-for-all anyway, so we're all
We
right.
need a trumpet fanfare here. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh,
She's got it upside down.
let's go this way. It'll be a little more reasonable. What movie have you seen more than any other, and why?
Oh, that's easy. Casablanca. My probably second favorite movie. Favorite is an interesting way to put it. Casablanca, because I loved Humphrey Bogart in almost everything he was in, and the man who played the French police lieutenant, whose name I can't remember at the moment, was a really good actor, very suave and very careful, and so such a contrast to Bogart, and so that's been a favorite.
That's a good one.
I like Gone with the Wind. Gone with
Gone
the
with the
Wind.
Wind.
I have seen that so many times, and I love that movie. I love the movie because of Scarlett O'Hara. I think I just loved Scarlett O'Hara in the green dress she made from the curtains. That one I'll never forget, and I'll never forget the young girl saying, "Miss Scarlett, I don't know nothing about both babies."
Good reading.
Well, since I've been teaching courses that deal in some way or another with communication, a movie I've seen a lot of times that I never tire of seeing of it. I think it may be arguably my favorite movie, and I like it because it has no car chases, no special effects, just real people talking to one another. And it is the movie, drumroll, Ordinary People, which won the Oscar for Best Picture in 1980, directed by Robert Redford. I really like that movie. I think it's a very authentic movie in many ways.
It's a good book too.
Yeah.
I think I've probably seen Sound of Music the most because I have 4 kids who, loved that and wanted to see it again and again. And I watched it with them, and I did like it. I love Julie Andrews, and so probably that's the one I've seen the most. I don't know if it's necessarily one I like the best.
They're all very excellent movies.
Yes.
So for something completely different, the one movie that I watch most often, usually once a year in the dead of winter when I'm in the doldrums, is Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh,
It's
really?
awful.
Interesting.
Say that again?
It's bad. Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, yeah.
It's the black and white version. It's got everything about it is awful, but it's so funny. I just sit there and I laugh and I zone out. And I've seen the color version, the remake. That's kind of fun and interesting. That has Steve Martin in it, and that dentist scene is worth watching the remake. But the original Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah.
So
Is it
shoot
the
me.
best.
Seymour, isn't that his
Yeah,
name? Seymour.
Seymour, yeah.
And to provide thematic coherence, let's not forget Batman, which is
Yeah, okay, okay.
Okay.
All right, we have another one here. See if I can get it upright when I open it, if it'll open. Oh, okay. I don't know who will start. What is your dream vacation? Money's no object here.
Dream vacation.
I don't have a dream. Well, any sailing trip, bareboating, which is what we always did, and then we sailed the boat ourselves. Most anywhere, and because the Apostle Islands are close, chartering a boat up there for a week that's a real dream. I can't do that anymore, but I would if I could.
I've done my dream vacation, and I've dreamed of it since I was in ninth grade when I had a wonderful Latin teacher. And in 10th grade, I had another wonderful Latin teacher, and I fell in love with Rome and ancient Greece.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to go there. And my husband and I took a beautiful Mediterranean cruise a couple of years ago, which was my dream vacation of all time. And standing in the Parthenon was just incredible. It was just marvelous. It was all of my dreams and more.
That would be mine. I've done one small part of it. That would be my dream vacation, so I'm still waiting for it.
Yeah.
I have lots of versions of the dream vacation in my mind, but the one I keep thinking about was one I did do. And it's kind of looking back, one of the best things I've ever done. I'd never been out of the country. I graduated from college, had a little money saved up, bought a flight to Madrid, Spain, a Eurail pass, and a frame backpack, and just wandered around Europe for 7 weeks.
Oh, that's terrific.
Wonderful.
Wow.
It wasn't always fun. Sometimes it's really challenging, but I'm really glad that I did that. I went to 7 different countries and had a great time.
Great. That's excellent.
That
That's really
fits.
I don't think I have a dream vacation either. I've been to Europe, and I'd like to see England and Scotland and Wales and Ireland and Nova Scotia.
Yeah, that would be. I'd like to see England too. That would
Yeah.
be a good one. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
a lot of history.
One of the really fun vacations we took recently was a river cruise. We cruised from Amsterdam to Budapest.
I've heard about those. They sound fun.
They are really great, and the concert, we had a classical music concert at the Austrian Princess's Palace that was just absolutely stupendous. That was great.
That's definitely one of my bucket list items.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Well, this is a big piece of paper. I wonder if there's a big question on
Maybe
it.
it's the big question.
Maybe it's the
So I
big
have a
question.
secret prize about these two.
You don't get any prizes. I should have put something interesting in there. Yeah. Okay. Tell about a parade you went to or were in.
Okay. When I was
There's so many parades.
in school, when I was a tot in school, I was one of the safety people, traffic control. I forget what you call them, but I carried a sign. This is how long ago it was. The signs were metal and they were very heavy. They were shaped like a stop sign, and you went and held it up so the other kids could walk across the street with traffic control.
Crossing guard.
Crossing guard. And every spring, and that was in St. Paul, and every spring they would have a parade. We would parade from the state capitol to Harriet Island, and then spend the afternoon. That was a great parade.
I've got a great parade story. My mother lived to be 96, and she was, I think, almost 90 at the time, and she wasn't planning to come and see us that summer because the air conditioning was too cold in the house, and she wasn't going to come. And she lived in Nebraska at the time, so we're thinking, how can we get her to come? Well, a friend of mine said the lumberjack days were happening in Stillwater, and she said, why don't you invite her to be in the lumberjack parade? Because she was the senior citizen queen of her little town of Diller, Nebraska at the time. She said, invite her to be in the parade as visiting royalty. Yeah. Wow. I called her And well, I checked with the people from the parade, the officials or whatever, and they sent her a letter inviting her to appear as visiting royalty. She called me. Mother never called me. I always had to call her. She called me and she said, "Gloria, you'll never believe it." And she came. And my friend had a red convertible. We fixed it so that she sat on the back of the red convertible in this beautiful white summer dress and her little parasol with pink flowers on it. Big sign on Queen Janet, Queen of Diller in Nebraska, and she loved it. And all the little girls were watching. It was just fabulous.
Oh, that's
And so
great.
did you ever tell her the secret?
What?
That it all started with you?
No, I never told
Good.
her. I never
Good.
told her. Well, she said how'd they find out, and I said, well, I had said my mother is the senior citizen queen of Diller, Nebraska, and they said, would she like to come? So
Just perfect.
Wow.
Excellent. Excellent.
I was in a winter carnival parade once about, I don't know how many years ago. I was pretty young, before I was married. And that was fun. There was our company, the princess came from our company, and I was one of her attendants.
Oh, how fun.
So I got to ride on a
Was it an open convertible?
no, it was a float with mirrors. We sat on ice cold mirrors.
Oh,
And that was a fun thing, but
Yeah.
But cold,
the thing,
wasn't it?
it was very cold.
I remember that.
Yeah, but I remember watching a parade. The man who was going to be Pope Pius XII was here for some kind of a convention, and then they had a procession down Summit Avenue, and I was probably 7 years old or something like that. And he walked by in front of me, and everybody said, "Oh, there he is." And his garments were, his robes were dragging in the mud. It was kind of raining a little
yeah.
bit. I remember that
You
very well.
remember that
Yeah,
vividly.
especially the mud.
The mud, yeah. How interesting. Well, I guess I do have one little, I did ride sit on the back of a convertible in a parade in 1965 and got to do I haven't
Oh, yeah.
got that wave down.
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess it's like that.
I did that too.
In 1965, and that picture just popped up, and I hadn't seen it in 50 years. And that picture just popped up from a friend the other day, so it was fun to see. Otherwise, I wouldn't have remembered
What did we
that.
miss? Dave, did
Oh.
you? Yeah.
Zero, I've seen lots of parades. Zero experience in parades. So I'll put it on my bucket list.
What do you like best about a parade?
Usually the music,
Ah,
Oh,
okay.
especially if it's a good marching band.
Well, then don't go to the Winter Carnival parades because the bands never make it all the way through. I
Have you
can
been
tell you
royalty?
from that.
We could write a letter.
Yeah, we could write a letter and
could write a letter and
invite
give
you
the
to be
lumberjack
as the king of
days.
something or other.
Definitely. All right, let's see what we got going here. On this upside down again. No, it wasn't. What did you learn in your career that you wish you'd known earlier?
Oh,
I learned a big lesson. I worked for the Minnesota Hospice Organization, and my parents died before I got that job. And I learned so much about hospice and hospice care, and I wish I had known all that
Wish you'd
before
known
they
that.
died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll bet that would be valuable to know.
Mm-hmm.
What did I learn from my career? I learned that if you want to be reasonably happy, that you need to be straight and ethical about whatever it is you do and however you work with other people,
Good one.
regardless of their. And it can be very hard sometimes.
Definitely. I learned the value, much too late in life, of public speaking and speaking up in corporate situations, which I did not do for many years.
You're not alone.
that's a good lesson, and I could do the same. I learned through my writing career, which didn't start until after I retired, but my second husband died, and now I am I'm a hospice volunteer, and I write life stories for hospice patients, and I wish so much that I had done it for him, because his life would have been fascinating, but he died before I started doing that, and so I never did get to document his life, and so that's a failing.
Or a regret.
A regret.
Yeah.
Regret, not a failing, a regret.
Yeah.
Oh, you're looking at me again.
Yeah.
Forget you this time.
Well, having been in education most of my life, you could probably write a whole book just on what you think you've learned. And certainly one thing that comes to mind is having a perspective on what you're doing. It is just school. Sometimes people take it too seriously. I mean, they have lots of rules. And to lighten up a little bit, to try to look at things from a student's perspective, to try to have reasonable expectations. These are things that I try to have a sense of humor, and to realize that style seems to matter.
I think
When
that's
I read comments from students, almost never are they about the hard structural parts of the course. They're about stylistic things, how they were talked to, how they felt,
how you related to
and how
them.
they related to them.
And how that means not exactly how you did it, but how they felt
Yeah.
about
Yes.
their relationships with you. Yeah, I agree. That's really important.
Okay.
Well, thanks.
Dig
This
down
is
to the bottom
fun.
here.
This
All right.
is really fun.
It is fun. It is.
So far,
Okay. Do you keep in touch with old high school or college friends? Why or why not?
Ooh.
well, a lot of them have died. So, I mean, our high school class was 350, and I think it's down to 12 now or something like that. No. College, yes. High school, no.
I do. I even have friends still from elementary school.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, elementary school kind of gets lost in the fray sometimes.
Yeah. Well, we went to high school together too. But the reason we have all kept in touch is because they're wonderful women. They're women. It's a women's group. We started out at 14, I think, and now there are 5 of us left. Four of us. So it's dwindling, and we're getting some of us not well enough to get together real often anymore.
So you actually get together in person
We
too,
do.
not just keeping in touch with letters.
Yep,
and- yeah.
we do.
So you live maybe in the same
We-
neighborhood?
No, well, around
This
the Twin
metro
Cities.
area,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
I do. I went to Northfield High School when I was a sophomore, and so I moved from Hopkins, so I knew people from Hopkins and people from Northfield, and we have had 5-year reunions every year, and this year is our 60th. That sure dates me. But this year is our 60th reunion, and I love those people, and we become more fond of each other as time goes past, because so many of us are gone now, and those times are very precious to all of us. We have a group of women particularly, and we have lunch together about every 6 or 8 weeks. We have lunch together in addition to these 5-year reunions.
That's what we do too. We go
Yeah.
to lunch from
Our
about.
high school debate team still has dinner together at least once a year.
Good.
4 of us are in the metro. 1 lives in Santa Rosa, California, but when he's here, we always get together. I also contacted my 7th grade social studies teacher a number of years ago, and we had lunch, and that was really nice too, kind of a tapestry of your life,
Yeah.
connecting everything. And I'm really glad that I did that. So those connections, I think, have value, and I think normally people are quite happy, surprised, and really quite willing
Yeah.
to reconnect.
A cornet player who was in our high school skating band, and I played trombone. I see her 3 or 4 times a year at the at the Minnesota Orchestra concerts. But other than that, and she's not in my grade. You're younger, but
For me, I think life got in the way with the 3 or 4 friends that I had, but we kept in touch just a little bit with letters over the years. And it's hard to say you're really keeping in touch with that, and maybe every 10 years or so, a class reunion. I just went to the 50th, and that was fun and nice. And then more recently, Facebook has brought
yeah.
me together with them more than even the class reunions ever would have, because
Yeah.
you can carry on a conversation more frequently. Well, we have only about 2 minutes left, so let's call this a rapid fire. I hope it's not a hard question.
Quick answers.
Bam, 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 bam.
Hope it's fun.
What is the hardest lesson you ever learned?
Oh,
Oh, that's a lovely question.
Should I draw another one? or-
Yeah.
Yeah,
good-
yeah.
do another one.
Let our viewing audience ponder that one.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, what is the best advice your parents gave you, and did you follow it?
Yes. Be honest. Be straight. Be ethical.
My dad told me, David, you're going to be working for a long time. Whatever you do, make sure that when you go to work, you really like what you're doing. And I think that was good advice, and I think it's,
Yeah.
I basically follow it. so.
Oh, my mother always said, always tell the truth. You never have to remember what you said because it'll come naturally. Everything you talk about will come naturally if it's a truth. If you tell a lie, you have to remember it, not only the lie, but who you told it to.
It's good advice.
Well, my father was artistic, and I drew and painted since I was a little tiny kid. And he said to me one time, God gave you a talent, and you have to use it.
Oh, good.
Make sure you do that.
And we've seen
And
your art.
I have taken his advice. Thank you.
Good advice.
And the honesty seems to be a bit of a theme. My father demonstrated that in life, right down to as a farmer, instead of as some other farmers have done. He had a sick cow. I remember the day. He had a sick cow, and he said, well, I know other farmers would probably ship it off to the stockyards and get rid of it, but I don't want anyone eating this meat. And he killed and disposed of the cow himself. But he taught me honesty, and it stuck with me. That was a good one, so
Yeah.
nice to hear you
Good.
say that. Well, we're at the end of our time. Thank you, Carl and Dave, for being here today. Gloria and Ellie, thank you too also. It was a
Thank
fun
you.
show today.
It was a lot of fun.
And thank you all for watching us today. This is Generations, and we'll see you next time.